And thank you for joining us. Just into the newsroom, the 13-year-old boy accused of opening fire on Douglas County deputies Tuesday evening is now charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Investigators say the boy walked out of his home with his grandfather's rifle and started shooting. It happened about 4:30 Tuesday afternoon at a home on Highway 35, about halfway between Superior and Pattison State Park. Amazingly, neither the boy nor the officers suffered injuries before that boy was then taken into custody. We have team coverage of the shooting and brand new charges, beginning with Northern News Now's Dominic Vitiello at the scene of the crime. Dom, disturbing new details found in those charging documents.
Yeah, and that's right, Dan. 13-year-old Carson Peterson is now being charged as an adult. An attempted homicide charge is just one of the many he is now facing. And after allegedly asking officers repeatedly to shoot and kill him over at the home over here behind me, and then shooting at the deputies. And I spent the day in the neighborhood working to learn as much as I could, and that's what we stumbled upon. Authorities responded to the home you just saw here behind me on reports of a teen throwing and breaking glass and things within the home. And a deputy met the boy on the back porch, and that's when all of this started. The 13-year-old allegedly told the deputy he was going to shoot him and then ran inside to get a gun. And according to the sheriff's office, and bear with me here, the teen reemerged with a rifle scope and a scope, and told the deputy, quote, "Just shoot me." That's what he's telling officers, forcing the deputies to take cover around a corner, and a shot was then fired. Many more deputies responded, and over the course of the next hour, the suspect fired the gun towards deputies at least 4 times. And one deputy heard this shot go over his head, and throughout this, Peterson was in communication with officers over the phone, actually. And at one point, he's saying, quote, "I'm going pig hunting." And the suspect later came out of the house without the gun and went into a garage. And that's when he came out wearing a tactical vest, saying, quote, "I'm bulletproof now, come shoot me." And that's when he was arrested. And I spoke with nearby neighbors who described what they saw and heard.
Well, I heard a couple of shots and pretty much figured the obvious out. Turned into a pretty significant event. There might have been more, there might have been less, but it looked to be 10 to 15 officers.
The grandmother who lives at the home with Peterson told officers he had been angry and asked her to buy a video game. And when she said no, he allegedly pulled a knife and threatened to harm her. And now Douglas County Sheriff Matthew Izzard declined an interview with us today, but only saying in an email, I'll read the quote for you, that his deputies show tremendous restraint and that their training helped this incident come to a peaceful conclusion. And in addition to the attempted homicide charge, Peterson also faces 3 more felony charges, including first-degree recklessly endangering safeties of others. And we have more as this continues to develop. Back to you, Dan, in the studio. Dominic Vitiello, Northern News Now in Douglas County.
Yeah, we're told tonight officers never returned fire here. That's amazing that no one involved was hurt or killed. Dominic Vitiello again reporting live for us from the town of Superior. Thank you, Dom. As we mentioned, Carson Peterson is now charged as an adult despite being just 13 years old. And Northern News